Okay, all right. We're going to talk about money today. We got Krause University. Welcome back. We're going to talk about money. I got my Krause University exclusive T-shirt on. Maybe I'll give one of those away. All right, so today we're talking about money. And I know you're saying, why are we talking about money? It's spring break. I'm supposed to be on spring break because no teacher should require students to do that which he is not willing to do himself. So that's what I'm doing. I want you guys to work through spring break. Given the circumstances, I think we have to. So I am going to do what I want you to do. I'm going to work through spring break regardless. Give your parents their hard-earned tax dollars worth. So we were talking about money. There's different types of money. Money as an invention, cash and coins is important. We went over the three functions of money, but we wanted to go over the supply of money. And first, in order to understand the money supply, you have to understand the different types of money. So I wanted to go over the different types of money. So there are two different types of money. There's commodity money and fiat money, which is also called token money, because it has zero intrinsic value. All right. So what do I mean by intrinsic value? Other forms of currency had value, like spices. You can use them outside of being money. When you trade livestock and you use that as money, if you use salt as money, all these things, when the fur traders traded pelts, you can use those things. If they use cigarettes in prison, you can use those things for things beyond, just function as money. Gems, you can use them. The paper money is really token money, which means its intrinsic value is zero. It has no real value. If you look at the amount of money that goes into make a dollar, it's probably cents per dollar. It's the ink and the paper that goes into making a dollar and the printing amounts to like zero real value in that dollar. The only reason the dollar is worth something is because the government says it's worth something. So that's what token money is talking about. The intrinsic value is less than the actual value. A $20 bill is not worth $20 in ink and paper. So token money is fiat money. Fiat money is money that's declared by fiat by the government to be legal tender. So now we're talking about the money supply. All right. The money supply is talking about M1. Okay. So the M1 is the most narrow definition of the money supply. And the most narrow definition involves all cash and coins, and all checkable deposits, which means that's money that you can, it's accounts that you can write a check on, that you can, actually spend money off of. Like if you have a check is essentially money. If you write a check, that's the same thing as paper money. When you go to your checking account, you go to you either use your debit card, that's linked to your checking account. So that is money because you have instant access to that money and you can use it. You don't have to go to the bank. You can write a check and you can spend the money right there. So M1 is the most narrow definition of money. It's the most liquid definition of money. All right. So it's all cash, all coins, and all checkable deposits because you have instant access to those three. You can use them right off the bat. Now, when we talk about M1, M2, and M3, the supply of money, be cognizant of something that M1 is part of M2 and M2 is part of M3. So it gets bigger and bigger. M3 is by definition bigger than M1 and M2 because M1 and M2 are part of M3. So it's like a Venn diagram where one encompasses the other. So it gets larger and larger. So M1 is the most immediate. It's the smallest definition of money. It's the most narrow definition of money. It's only cash and checkable deposits. All right. Now, the qualification here is that money and currency held by the Fed, until the Fed releases money, it's not considered part of the money supply. So the Fed might have, billions or trillions in dollars that it doesn't release. Well, if the Fed doesn't release it, it's not part of the money supply. So that's M1, cash, coins, checkable deposits, otherwise known as demand deposits, because it's money available upon demand. M2 includes all of M1 plus monies that are just slightly less liquid. All right, so you're talking savings accounts, all right, which it has that one caveat. You can't write a check on a savings account. You have to go to the bank, withdraw the money, so it's that one extra step. So M2, which is slightly less liquid, it includes all of M1 plus savings accounts, CDs, which are time deposits. Okay, they're certificates of deposit. What a CD is, it's kind of like a bond in a way, because you give the bank your money. It's like a savings account, but it gives a slightly higher rate of interest, because you give your, say, your $1,000 to the bank, and they're going to give you a slightly higher rate of interest. Like if this savings account is 0.5%, the CD would be like 1%. And the beauty of it for the bank is the CD, you're required to keep it. That's why it's called a time deposit. You're required to keep it in the bank. You cannot withdraw it before 6 months, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. It's some sort of time. And as the time goes up, you get more interest on that. So that's what a CD is. You give the bank money, and they have the beauty of it for the bank is they know they have their money for 1 year, for 3 years, whatever you sign on the paper for. So they can use that money and have certainty that you're not going to come for that money back like you could for a savings account. So M2, again, includes all of M1. Savings accounts are in M2, not in M1. CDs of less than $100,000 are in M2, and that's small time CDs. And money market mutual fund balances, all right? And that's individual money market mutual funds. If you have money in a stock account, where do they park it while you're not using it? That's called a money market mutual fund. They put the money in that. It earns like maybe a savings account level of interest. It doesn't earn a lot of interest, but that's what a money market mutual fund is. All right, so that's M2, all of M1 plus savings, small time CDs, and individual money market mutual funds. Now M3 includes all of M2, once again, plus more large CDs. All right, so if you have a certificate of deposit, a time account of greater than 100,000, and institutional money market mutual funds. So if I have a money market mutual fund in my E-Trade account, that would be an M2. If E-Trade has a money market mutual fund that they hold at Chase, that's institutional. Then it would be an M3. Okay, so on the test, you're pretty much only responsible for M1, M2, M3. There's another definition. Here's from Wikipedia. If you want to look at the Wikipedia definition, they have a whole bunch. I haven't seen the test go over more than M1, M2, M3, but they do have M0, which is just cash and coins. How would this appear on the test? Okay, so that's it on the money supply. They can be tricky with this on the test. What they'll do is they'll say, like, suppose Janet takes $1,000 from her paycheck, from her pocket. She has cash, and she deposits it in her bank account. What would happen to the money supply? Right? So hit pause, think about it. If Janet takes $1,000 from her pocket, she's walking around with 1,000, which is not a good idea, but she is. And then she deposits it in her checking account. What would happen to the money supply? Right? And the answer is nothing. Nothing would happen to M1 because it's just going from one part of M1. It's going from the cash part of M1 to the checking part of M1. So it would be like, if your cash goes down but your checking account goes up, you're not getting any poorer. The M1 is not changing at all because you're just putting it now. If, on the other hand, they've never done this, Janet takes that $1,000 and deposits it into her savings account, that would be a little bit different. You would say M1 would go down because she takes the cash and she doesn't have that cash anymore, and she puts it in her savings account. So the M1 part of M2 would go down, but the tricky part is M2 wouldn't change at all because M1 would go down. The M2 part of M2 would go up, so M2 would stay the same. M1 would actually physically go down though. So those are the type of things that I've seen on the test before. We'll go into other videos after this, but that's the money supply and types of money. All right, there's more to come. Every day this week, I'm going to be working. You guys should be studying too, because you don't have the benefit of me potentially after break. So you might have to work hard. Let's go.